me start as a moderator. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Sir, একটা minute, sir, just a minute for. Give me just 1 minute.
Please.
Sure.
So I think Dr. Julia, Lara, and FK, Rundi, all are okay, I think.
I think they are.
Ms. Roma,
Comparative.
are we waiting?
Yes, yes. Oh,
We have still 1 minute to start. Maybe Roma is fine tuning anything. Maybe for the Facebook Live, maybe. Any noise from my side, sir?
no,
noise.
it's fine.
Loud and clear.
Ruma kept us waiting. Maybe she is changing with the art of change management. Continuous change.
So, Dr. Julia, we as formally we have not yet started. So, from our university, we are inviting you to visit us, Bangladesh. We love to host you in Chittagong.
That would be very
Yes,
nice.
sir.
That would be very nice. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay.
Thank you. Also for today, I am excited.
Thank you.
We are good to go.
Okay. Okay, hello, good afternoon and good morning based on wherever you are located in the world globally. I welcome today's keynote speaker, Dr. Julia Winnemalen. I hope I'm very close to it. And Assistant Professor of University of Twente, Netherlands, and also as a discussant, Dr. M. Nazmul Islam, Associate Professor, BRAC Business School, BRAC University, Dhaka, Bangladesh. And I'm moderating, I'm Professor Musliuddin Khaled in the School of Business of Chittagong Independent University. Last but not the least, our Vice Chancellor is here with us to greet all the speaker and discussant. And he is our beloved Dr. Nurul Afsar, Professor in the School of Business and also the Vice Chancellor of Chittagong Independent University. Welcome to all of the speaker, discussant, and all audience across the globe. Thank you. Welcome. A very hearty welcome from Chittagong Independent University. At the start, let me give a short introduction of our keynote speaker, Dr. Julia Winnemalen. Her professional goal as a scientist to bridge the gap between science and practice. She believes that what we study should be of added value and lessons from the business. World should flow into science and vice versa. Her PhD trajectory at the Netherlands Defense Academy, University of Twente, and Stanford, USA, has taught her how important it is to connect science and practice. As I had to explain to a soldier in Afghanistan, why filling out a questionnaire is useful to them. Hence, in addition to her appointment as an assistant professor of change management at the University of Twente, she also works as a change consultant at the Dutch Railways. And her research focuses on effective cross-cultural change management, team dynamics, and multi-team system effectiveness. I again welcome Dr. Julia Winnemalen. Now, let me take a few seconds to introduce our discussant, the guest. Dr. M. Nazmul Islam is an associate professor of BRAC Business School at the BRAC University, Bangladesh. Dr. Islam completed his PhD in Human Resource Management from the University of Malaya, Malaysia. Prior to joining BRAC Business School, Dr. Islam served as a full-time faculty member at the business school of two different universities named University of Liberal Arts Bangladesh and University of Asia Pacific as an assistant professor, where he taught human resource management, strategic human resource management, managerial negotiation, strategy management, principles of management in undergraduate and graduate program. Dr. Islam has published several articles in different index journals. He is currently serving as editorial board members at Frontiers in Psychology, Organization Psychology journal. Dr. Islam is an active reviewer in many reputed journals published by renowned publishers like Elsevier, Emerald, Sage, Springer, and Wiley. His research interest includes HRM and leadership and organizational change management, and so on. So again, I welcome also Dr. Nazmul Islam. A heartily welcome from Chittagong Independent University. So now I would like to call upon our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. M. Nurul Absar, to throw his opening remarks. Sir, please.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Musliuddin Chaudhry Khaled, for moderating this wonderful session on the art of change management. Good afternoon, everyone from Bangladesh, and welcome to today's webinar on the art of change management. I am delighted to offer the opening remarks as we explore one of the most critical and often most challenging aspects of organizational success, leading and managing change effectively. Change is no longer a one-time event. It is a continuous journey, and mastering the art of managing it is not just beneficial, it is essential. As John F. Kennedy used to say, change is the law of life. Those who look only the past are certain to miss the future. In today's session, organized by Institute of Governance, Development, and International Studies, Chittagong Independent University, we'll unpack change management models, common pitfalls, contextualization, and the human side of change that too often gets overlooked. We'll hear from our key speaker all the way from Netherlands, Dr. Julia Wijnmalen from University of Twente, Dr. M. Nazmul Islam, Associate Professor, BRAC University, Dhaka, Dr. Musliuddin Chaudhry Khaled, Professor and moderator of today's session. And there will be time for question and answer session at the end. So feel free to jot down your thoughts and drop questions in the chat as we go along. As you know, Bangladesh aims to become a prosperous, socially inclusive, and environmentally friendly country. As a transitional economy, the country needs to reform its policies and practices across various sectors to achieve its vision. With the upcoming graduation from the status of least developed country, LDC, in 2026, the target of achieving sustainable development goals by 2030 and becoming an upper middle income country by 2031, Bangladesh faces significant socio-economic challenges such as urbanization, climate change, and infrastructure development, which necessitates specialized change management strategies. Currently, universities in Bangladesh do not adequately offer research or practice change management. Notably, no Bangladeshi university currently offers an exclusive master's, undergraduate, diploma, or certificate course in change management. So there has been a dearth of research in context of change management. And I firmly believe that this webinar will explore the avenues for exploiting the opportunities that change management research and practice can contribute to the socio-economic development of Bangladesh. So thank you again for joining us. My heartfelt thanks and gratitude go to Dr. Julia for her time, efforts, and insights in making this happen. My sincere thanks also go to Dr. Nazmul, Dr. Musliuddin Khaled, Ms. Ruma, and Mr. Mustafiz of our IT department, and everyone part of this event. Let's dive in and start transforming the way we think about change. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for wonderful opening remarks. And as I know that you are professionally, you are also a man of change management. You are practicing them with the theory. And again, I welcome again Dr. Julia Wienermalen. As you said, from all the way Netherlands, if not coming physically, but in the future, we expect that she will come to our campus. Just as a housekeeping rule, we started at 1 and we will finish by 2 p.m. And first we will have the keynote speaking session, and then we will have the discussing for a few minutes. Then we will open the floor for question and answer. And also, apart from this Zoom session, our session is on the Facebook Live. Okay. And audience, you can use the chat box for your questions. So we will pick all the questions from there. Now, Dr. Julia, it's your turn, and we are waiting for you for the session, your presentation. Dr. Julia Wienermalen, again, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation also to be here. I'm very honored and also very happy because we're talking to a group of very diverse audience. And that's what I like, when students, academics, and practitioners come together and together, I don't know, get a hold of a topic that's so relevant in today's age. And as also already in the introduction, Professor Absar sort of outlined very nicely, is that when I started working with Professor Absar and Professor Islam, is that when we started to investigate change management in the sort of the setting of Bangladesh, I cannot sort of withhold my compliments, because I was very amazed in what you as a country already achieved in such a short time, and also the effort and the sort of the collective wish to build a country. And I thought, wow, we in the Netherlands could learn from that, because I don't know, it seemed really that you have this common goal into making Bangladesh higher up the chain, wealth for everyone. And I really think, and I'm here as an ambassador of the field of change management as a practice, so as a job, but also as an academic, I feel that change management and the knowledge of change management could really act as a catalyst, or to increase the impact, or say the oil in a machine to get you to where you want to go. And I hope that today people will be inspired to want to have this job, to be that catalyst in this society or in your organization, and maybe even feel like, hey, maybe if I do my master's, I should do a minor in change management, because this makes sense in where we as a country are right now. So I really hope that as an ambassador, I can put across this information and no, I don't know, maybe influence some life decisions on career possibilities. Let's see. So what is it? I thought I would start with that, because I know that change management is not so, even in the Netherlands, if I say I'm a change manager, not everybody knows what I do. So, and we even have minors and masters in the field. So I thought I would explain as to what the job entails and then see what practice entails. So is there a way to get my presentation up? Because we're starting to dive into it. Or are you already seeing it, but maybe not me? No, oh, there it is.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah. If you could go to the second slide already, that would be nice.
Yes, I think the slideshow started. Today's agenda, you can see.
Yeah, so I'm going into this practical part and this theoretical part. Next slide. And that has to do with also what was told in the introduction. I really believe in this synergy between the two. And that's also what I try to do in my job, where I, for instance, I now noticed lately the Dutch Rail is one of the biggest companies in the Netherlands. And of course, there's a lot of people working 24/7. So they have rosters. And one of the things that we now notice is, how do you get people in a department that works in rosters to go through a change process, because they don't see each other? Right? So these are things that I then wonder, what do we know in science? And then I go back to science and I go around, and then I try to find a student who is interested in doing a master's thesis. And now I've got two. And they're going to research how to do it. And then I take this knowledge back to the NS and hope that we can use it and share it among my team so that we could, I don't know, be more effective in the way we work. So that's how I try to combine these two worlds. Yes, next slide, please. And why is it so relevant? Well, the number alone that you see in the slide is already a big number. There's been debate whether it's 70, whether it's 50%. It depends on how you count. So don't pinpoint me down on the 70% of failure, but it's high. Even if it's 20% or 50%, it's high because there's a lot of money invested if you want to have an organizational change. There's a lot of effort of people, which is also time is money. And there's a lot of frustration and people, you know, being hurt in a certain way because of changes. And if they then fail, you don't hit target, that should change, right? You want to be effective. And what you see is that companies, be it in government or be it in business, they often know what the result should be, right? We want people to be more efficient, or we want people to be more assertive, or we want people to change the way they do something in a factory because that takes more time and we want to do them to work with a computer now or something like that. And what you see management do is that they really focus on this result, but there's not a lot of attention for this process. And actually the process is where the magic happens. That's where you prepare for success. And in the Netherlands, my job, so the change management consultant job, is often also referred to as what we do is process work. So everything we do has to do with the process. How do you introduce the results of the change or the impact you want to make? How do you get people to own it, to want it, to not be afraid of it? So one of the things that we teach management is do not focus on the result. You will get there, but you have to focus on the process. That's one. Let me see. And to give you an idea as to what you then do if you do process work, I thought I would share with you sort of the annual review of the work that we did with my team at NS. So we were 10 people. Next slide, please. And this picture, oh, this is the old presentation. So next slide. Next slide. Yeah, this is an overview of all the things that we do. And I will just, you can have a look at the picture, and I will talk a little bit in general terms. So what you see is that as a change consultant, you are either an internal consultant or an external consultant, meaning that for me, my boss is the NS. So whatever I do, I work only within the NS. But the external consultants like PwC, Deloitte, you know, they often also have a consultancy element that has to do with organizations. Think of lean or agile experts in IT, or really, as in the Netherlands, change management as a field. And these change projects, they can have different sizes. So we do, I've done like projects that take 4 years. Think of, for instance, the train drivers that before the train was really a machine, you had to have like technical experience. And now it's becoming more and more of a computer. But that does something with the identity of this train driver, because this train driver was always very, very proud that he was a technician. You know, this machine, he owned this machine and he knew every bolt and bits of the machine. And if it was broke, he knew how to fix it. They got out of the train driver's seat and they really got their hands dirty. And now they had, over the years, they have to have, I don't know, they did not come out of the seat. And if it's broken, they cannot touch it because there's an IT guy somewhere in Utrecht, actually, so where I'm right now, looking at a computer and can see what's wrong with the train. So this development over the years of this profession of this train driver is really something that every time we have this little step in automation, every time you ask the train driver to trust on the IT part, has a lot of impact, because you want these people to also be happy, because there's a big, what's the word in English? What's the word? When you have people fighting the rights of people in factories. wait, I'm going to Google it. The trade unions. So the big trade unions behind this group of people. So as a company, if you want to have all these efficiency things, because we use the train as a computer because they drive better. Have people, human failure, they go fast, they go slow, and it makes for the roster to not always be upheld. And if we do it with as a computer as a train, it's very stable. But people don't want to hear that because it's their proud and their work and their identity to be a train driver. So those are projects that are very big, but there's also projects that are smaller. Like, okay, they have to implement a new, I don't know, a new system that changes your work a little bit. Or those can be projects that only takes half a year. And a lot is also based on working with people, because people, of course, make an organization. So that could be personal effectiveness through coaching, through, I don't know, self-development, personal development workshops. And it could also be team effectiveness, because you can put all these smart people together, but that doesn't make a good team, right? So we do a lot of work there too, because the team is the basis, especially if it's management teams, because they steer. So it would be very nice if they are effective and working well, because it will trickle down into the organization. So as you can see, there's a lot that we do, and it all focuses on getting people somewhere, helping them, creating the oil, creating that they talk to each other and know how to do that effectively. So there's many different aspects of this job, which also makes it a lot of fun. Yeah, so that's the place that you can have. You can be an internal consultant, you can be an external consultant, and your work is going to be very diverse. And also, you see over the years, because change management is a relatively new field that is very influenced by consultants, because they saw before the academics in the 80s that organizations were changing faster, and that they needed people to know how to do that. So in the 80s, these consultants kind of took over this field that started with Kurt Lewin in the late 30s. And you see that there's this intertwinement of what is change management and how do you do that effectively. And that also makes for a field, next slide, that is full of models and ideas as to how to do this. And that's why I also, can I have the next slide? That's why I also called this presentation The Art of Change Management, because I really feel that it is an art, and that there's many opinions as to what it entails to be good. So if I could compare it, it's almost like a woodworker, you know, you have your theory about wood, how to treat it, what wood is good for, I don't know, furniture, what good is for doing stuff outside. So there's a lot of knowledge on wood. And at the same time, where you learn the trade, of course, influences as to what you think is right, the right way to do your job. So the tradesmanship, and over the years, you get better in working with the wood. And I really feel that change management is a little bit similar. So if you Google, in Google Scholar or in Google generally, effective change management, you will be hit over the head with the amount of people that wrote about it and are still writing about it, the amount of books. And that means that for me, the conclusion is we don't know. And maybe there's one good way. Maybe there's multiple good ways. And so this really contextual vision as to what change management, what makes it effective. And that's, I think over the years, we started to realize that that's the case. You see also on the slides that even Kotter with his 8-step program, and he's been, I don't know, cited all over if you talk about change management. He even says, well, maybe don't only do my 8 steps, maybe look broader and see what is useful here. And that's a nice analogy with the bridge, right? You know, a bridge is there to cross something, either a river or a road, but there's so many ways of building a bridge, you know? They can go up and down, they can go open, they rotate. So the way to do it, to cross this water, has many varieties. And to be honest, even though I'm a scholar in change management, people in class still ask me about models that I've never heard of. And also I once tried with another practitioner to create this overview. I really needed an overview of what's written and what do we know. We sort of got lost in the forest because there's just so much, and also so much is alike. And especially if you then take sort of the scientists that want to build models and prove them right, and then you have all these consultants that pile onto that. So there's a lot of practitioners' work as well. So the gray literature is also immense. And everybody is looking for this golden answer as to what do I do? And that's also what you see if I am in a consultant position. The leader just wants help. The manager wants help. They're like, tell me what to do. Let me know, because it feels so uncomfortable. And I want you to take this uncomfortableness away, because I don't know how the process will go. And that's something that I don't like, because I don't have control about it. And that's just too bad, because some processes cannot be controlled. The only thing that you can do is set the setting in a way that the behavior might come, like nudging. So next slide. I think somebody's mic is on. So what I decided, if I actually do it always like this, that if somebody asks me to do a short presentation on change management, I never start talking about models, because if I do that from my position, people say, well, Julia, she's an assistant professor. She said this model. And I don't want you to think that way. I want you to think independently, look at the context that you are in, and decide what is best in this situation. So what I always do is that I present you sort of with a fruit platter. That's why I chose this picture. In a fruit platter, you have kinds of fruits. So you have citrus fruit, and I always get stuck here because I never know to name other fruits, but you have categories of fruit. And all these models that are out there are also, you're able to categorize them. So what I'm going to teach you in these upcoming 10 minutes is just a way, sort of say a lens, in which you can make sense of what you are reading. Because if I Google change management model and you Google change management model, you will get a different sort of output and pictures that you see or books that are available. And I want you to understand what you are reading, so that you can make up your own opinion about it and understand it better. So that's what we're going to do. Next slide, please. So you can divide the field of change management actually in two approaches. And they are shown now. Magic. Next slide, please. Yeah. Oh, yes, there they are. So there's two categories. You have sort of planned approaches to change, and you have emergent change. There's sort of two fields, sort of two beliefs, you can say. This planned approach to change, those are the linear processes. So a lot of the models that you see have colors and steps. And step 1, step 2, step 3, or step 5 if you take Outcar, or Kotter with 8 steps. Those are also the ones that consultants like, especially external consultants, because they all made their own version of the truth, because that's what you sell, right? You sell the Deloitte approach or the PwC approach. And that's also what this manager wanted, right? That I explained to you that the person is a bit, anxious, and he or she wants to see what you're going to do. And please put it in a planning. A Gantt chart would be best, because then we all know what's going on and when we are done. And that's the way you project managerly sort of do change management. I'm not saying it's wrong. But in my experience, I don't believe this kind of change. And maybe the 70% comes from people thinking, okay, next week we do step 1, after a month we do step 2, because things happen in life. And I can give you an example with these train drivers again, with the one that had to get to the automation of their job, right? So what happened over these 3 years? Of course, a lot of stuff happened. And one of the things in the Netherlands that we do is that during Christmas, your employer gives you a gift. So like an end of year gift. So thank you for being a good employee the whole year. Here you go. And at that time, our CEO gave socks. It was during Corona, you know, as a company, nobody took the train. So we were on sort of welfare funds from the government. And they decided not to do something big because that was impossible. So they gave very cool socks to trains on them. But what you saw happening is that these train drivers got very angry. Like, you know, I put so much effort in with all this flexibility and with Corona going out there with, you know, afraid for my own health. And you give me socks? And I'm telling you this because this mindset, this anger that was felt in this whole population of train drivers trickled through to everything that we wanted them to do differently, you know? So with this automation, you're like, and you give me socks and you take away the interesting part of my job. Who do you think you are, you know? So what I'm trying to say is that even though we might have been in step 2, because of the socks incident, we went back to 0 because people were not there. They weren't accepting any changes from the tower. They call it the tower, the management tower in Utrecht, because they were just so angry with them and did not trust them anymore. And that's why the emergent change field says, well, no, change is not a linear process. It could be that the 1 week you go 2 steps, it goes very fast, or maybe in one part of the organization, the change is adapted very quickly, but in the other part, it might not be that way, and you need to do a lot more work. So what they're saying is it's fickle, it's iterative. You go back and forth between steps and phases of acceptance. And it's very context dependent. And that is what you also should take into account, because these changes, they influence the mindset of the people. So planned approach and emergent change. And for the second category, which is sort of how I think change works, you see that management leaders, they don't like that approach that much, because if I talk to them, I cannot tell them when we are done. I can tell them the principles that we're working with and the way we had step 1. And then if we get to step 1, what happens? What do we see? What do the people need? You know, maybe the next step will be very fast, but maybe we need to do more, or we have to go a little bit back. So I do think that in the end, it's more effective. And I'm not saying it takes longer, because that's not, I don't think you can say that. But it is more, you stay more in what we call the liminal phase. So the phase, the in between, you don't know. It's not controllable. So that also for managers, at least, takes some of the comfort away. While for the people, I think the emergent change perspective gives them more feeling of being heard, being seen. Because we're tailoring it to their needs, instead of saying, hey, you know, week 2 was step 5 or something, you know, even though they are still step 4 or maybe even 3. So plan change and emergent change. Next slide, please. That's sort of how you can see how people believe. And then if you look at all the models that are out there, so more the literature about it, is that you have processual models and descriptive models. So these plan change view as to how it works are often more in the processual models, right? Because it's steps and processes that you follow. And then there's these descriptive models. Descriptive models are more sort of detailed views as to how change works. So for instance, what is the influence of, I don't know, a leadership position on, what's the influence of history on change readiness acceptance? What is the, so it's really, what researchers like to do is they want to focus on something, right? Because we need to scope it, because otherwise, how do we know if we study it, how things work? So what we do is we take this change process that is so embedded in the situation and in its context. As a scientist, you want to say, well, yeah, but I need to focus, right? Because all this context is sort of creating a blurrier image as how things work. So what we like to do is to take a little piece out of it, study this little piece, and then say, hey, so we know leaders, especially middle management, are very important in bigger organizations in getting people ready to accept change. Nice. And then we put this little puzzle piece on the table and say, well, yay, we know that. But what is more important, the position of this middle manager or the personality of this middle manager? And we don't understand, we don't research that, or somebody does, and then they take this little pill and they focus this way. So what we have, if you look at the literature, is either all these models that people say this is how it works, or we have all these articles about little snippets, little pieces of the puzzle that we know, knowledge that we know. But putting it together creates this, apparently it creates a situation in which we have no answer to what makes effective change management. We know snippets. That's also why I really like this paper of, sorry, I forgot the name, but I can give it to you so that you can put it somewhere. It's called, they dubbed it the kaleidoscope of change management. And what they did is that, the kaleidoscope are those things that you look through and then the glass falls in a certain way and you see different things. And they say, that's how change management works. Sometimes it's the middle manager, but if you have a shitty middle manager, maybe it's more important that it's the style of leadership in this context, because maybe history made them so sensitive to bad management that trumps this middle management position. So the way you turn it has to do with the context, has to do with history, and that creates a situation that you could look through as a practitioner to think, hey, I'm in this situation, in this context, we should do, I don't know, model X because it matches here with the culture or with the way they did it before and it was effective. And so every situation requires a new approach. And that's why I also think that change management in its own right really is an academic field and really is, because it used to be under management. Of course, it's management studies, but you see that it's growing because of the situation in the world where automation and all the IT development, everything goes so fast. So like Professor Apsar said in his beginning, is that we are in a state of constant change. So how can people cope with everything changing nonstop? And maybe one project is not even done and then already the next one starts. How do you do that? So, and since there's not one answer, making it very complicated, we need to have more attention to what we do know and how we can use it. Next slide, please. This is just an overview of such sort of models that I described. And there is just loads out there. I'm just showing this one because you already see that there's 37 models named. Well, I don't know. I think there might be 200 or 400 because everybody then, I don't know, Lewin's 3-step model has been dubbed so differently by so many people. And then they say it's a new model, but then they just really only change the names or add a middle step or add a word. And then it's already a new model if you look at it, because it has its own article, it has its own name. And that makes it very hard to see as to what is real and what's really different. But I think the difference between planned approach and emergence approach is one of the biggest. That's why I'm sharing it with you. And then the question is, what do you think works? Like, it's an art, it's a belief as to what you think is most effective. And I'm sorry that I cannot give you a 100% answer as to what is the truth. I don't think there is a truth, maybe. And I hope that with these, at least this lens, I provided you with a tool to understand what you read better and to place it sort of on an axis, right? Like, what is it? What am I reading? And do I believe that? And is it functional into the situation that I am right now? And I hope that you see that this job is really for the good people, because to be able to be so context sensitive and know so much theory-wise and put these things together, I think it's a very, very nice profession. So this concludes what I wanted to share with you. And please feel free to ask questions. I hope I can answer them. And I'm also very curious to hear what you think. Well.
Thank you, Dr. Julia. That was a wonderful, brief but wonderful. It would be nice if we could have more time on this. But anyway, that was a nice triggering point. And now I invite our discussion today, Dr. Nazmul. Are you, please carry on. Please unmute, Dr. Nazmul, please.
Am I audible?
Yes, now.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Khalek. Within a short time span, Professor Julia has covered a lot of issues about the change management. It is not possible to cover everything about the change management within this short period of time because it's a very vast concept. As she mentioned, that change failure rate is 70%. And that's why it is important to have a change expert in organization to manage change, because without change it's not possible to remain competitive. But there is no one size fit method for managing change, because people from different part of the world, they behave differently, they have a different behavior pattern. So it's the interchange process is related with the cultural and contextual issues. Dr. Julia has covered many theoretical aspects, different model, but the issue is, in order to manage change, there are a few factors, those who are known as common, like effective leadership, effective change planning, proper alignment of the organization, effective communication, and employee involvement. These are the common success factors. But there are some other factors which is more relevant with the cultural issues. If I talk about the Bangladeshi context, let's say Bangladeshi organization, if they want to make changes, if they want to bring any new changes, they need to follow their own culture. The change experts need to follow their own cultures. If I look at the Bangladeshi culture in the lens of Hofstede cultural dimension, then we can see that Bangladesh is known as high power distance country, where hierarchical society and the respect for the leader is highly appreciated. And Bangladesh is known as collectivist society as well. And if I talk about the uncertainty avoidance attitude of Bangladeshi people, they are a bit moderate. They usually like to take challenge, but they like a structured way of doing things, and they are mostly long-term vision oriented. Sorry, they're mostly the low on long-term orientation. So from this point of view, we can understand that Bangladesh, they have their own cultural issues. So as a change leader, you need to follow those cultural factors in order to manage changes. So my suggestion would be for the Bangladeshi leaders, those who will be conducting change in their organizations or implementing change in their organization, they should follow the hierarchical leadership. They should build a team, because Bangladeshi people love to work in a team. They respect leader. They love to work in a collective society, and they love structured thing. They do not like, uncertainty. They do not like to take much challenges. Rather, they love structured thing and a little bit flexibility on that. And they are the short-term focus. So these are the factors Bangladeshi change managers should follow. And the change management is an emerging concept. And in Bangladesh, I think we need more change managers, because Bangladesh is moving towards, uh, you know, moving towards a new dimension, as the new government has already declared a new vision, Bangladesh 2.0. So there will be lots of changes, and we will be looking for what to have many change managers. So that's all from me. If you have any question, any queries, feel free to ask.
Mariette, Dr. Khaled.
Yeah, please, Dr. Julia, can you add something on this?
Yes, please. Because Professor Islam pointed out a very important point, and that is that the most of the work that we have in change management in the academic field has been based on Western articles, Western people. They tested everything in Western companies, and the way we know each other is because when I went to live in Malaysia, I was looking for change management academics to, I don't know, broaden my scope. So I couldn't find them on the universities, at least not under the department names. And then I started looking at journals published in Asia, East Asia. And what I saw is that when they published about change management, it was the Australians. So that's very Western, right? So I thought, hey, what's going on? And if we know that culture always has such an impact in the way what's effective, right? We know that. We know that because there's a lot of cross-cultural studies. And here is this field that is already so fickle. And then we, people in India are doing Qatar with all these descriptions of, standing up, being this coalition. That wouldn't work. And I don't know much about Bangladesh, but the way Nazmul describes it, I don't think it works either. So we really have to invest in understanding sort of the sauce that every country needs to create an effective change.
Dr. Nurul Afsar, Professor, I want to invite you also to have a few words on what Dr. Julia presented and also Dr. Nazmul Islam said. And from your experience of managing the university from a chief executive position, how you are seeing the change management as a contemporary challenge.
So, yes, that Dr. Nazmul and Dr. Julia has already mentioned. So Nazmul has focused on contextualization of change management. And Dr. Julia has mentioned that change management as a discipline is highly westernized. So what we see, we find a gap if you think about the research. There has been the dearth of research in context of change management in emerging country context like Bangladesh or South Asia. So in future, we may look at how we can synthesize between Western and Asian change management research and practice. And as we have an international expert like Dr. Julia and Dr. Nazmul is one of the pioneers in introducing change management in Bangladeshi context. So I think in future, we may work on it, how we can actually introduce change management in Bangladesh by taking the best from East and West. Thank you.
Yeah, when it comes to management, actually, when it comes to mindset, as all of you commonly said, since we have a definite colonial past, there is a cultural, bottleneck that we are always afraid of talking change management. There is sort of a taboo. So maintaining the status quo is ingrained in our culture. But I think the hope is that with this Generation Z and all these things, we are also leapfrogging that paradigm. We are also looking forward to change management. So now from dear audience, as you heard from 3 speakers and also a few quick notes from me, if you want to ask any question directly, you can take this opportunity. Anyone from the audience? I hope it's not that Dr. Julia presented it so well that already you all changed so fast. Yeah, I can see a number of audience, very curious audience.
Feels a bit scary, to speak about
change management. A bit always confusing, scary. That's always in conjecture of this confusion and what to do. Anyone, please?
Sir,
yeah,
I would
please,
like to ask a question.
Yeah, Professor Ashikul Mahmood from Department of Human Resource Management.
Thank you, sir. My question is to Julia about a topic she covered in her slide. That is planned change versus emergent change.
Okay.
So I would like to know whether these two methods can coexist in a single organization or in a single project.
I think Dr. Julia already mentioned it, but I can think you can top it up.
I think I have to answer yes, because everything is situational. So I can imagine that if I take the NS, this big company that it is, the people that do management and are in the office culturally are very different type of person than the people in the factories and work factories, not a factory, but the garages. Is a garage a word where they fix the trains? Get their hands dirty. It's a very different kind of people, and they also want something very different from their leaders. So as a professional, I'm okay with my leader saying, hey, Julia, something's going to change. Not sure what, but just know that we're working on it, and somewhere in April it will happen. But what, how, and we're going to ask you for your opinion. I would be very nice. I would like that. But if you do this approach, so this emergent, we don't know, and we'll get back to you, not showing any steps, not showing any plan. If you do that, for instance, with these people that fix the trains, and maybe even in Bangladesh, if I hear the description of, remaining status quo, liking things to be clear, I can imagine that that would be very unsatisfying. That people want to know, okay, don't talk to me until you know what you're going to do. Because otherwise I have this uncertainty that is there that I don't like, because I need to know what this means for me. So then you already have in the same company 2 ways of approaching your employees, and whether they can coexist in the same sort of the same department or the same team. In a way, I think yes, because it kind of depends on how you do the plan change. Because of course you can in the emergent change process, you can say, hey, this first quartile of the year, we're going to orientate as to what needs to change. We need to find ways to decrease the costs that we have as a company. And this first step we take to, go into contact with you and decide what to do. I think if you look at it that way, you could say it is step 1. So it is in a way planned. But what you do in this step might be more emergent, because you would say, well, we don't know how we do it, and we go back and forth during this first quartile. Versus, planned is also a way of saying exactly what workshop, how you do it, without looking iteratively if it works or not. So I think even when I put them in 2 separate boxes, they are not separate boxes. They're like Venn diagrams, right? They sort of overlap. And I think in a way that's possible. Making it even more fuzzy, right? Sorry for that. So I said there were 2 categories. And
no, good answer. Good answer, Dr. Julia. Thanks again. In between, I wanted to ask one question. How, from your experience, how do you see the difference or the similarity among the government organizations and corporates, and also the social sector organizations? How you see the difference when it comes to adopting and showing the enthusiasm for the change management?
Also here, I think it differs. And it has to do with the following. For one, of course, there's a different type of people. But it's not to say that the professionals are more snappy and easier, get their job easier or something. Because that's also this idea that professionals in the business, they are not afraid, and they are aware that they can get a job very easily. But they might experience more risk if a company says, hey, something's going to change, right? Because they know, and that also is culturally dependent, because if you're in an American organization, you can hear tomorrow that you lost your job. Like there's no human element in there in the whole HR workings. But in the Netherlands, there's this social benefit system, you'll be okay. And maybe I think the tempo in business organizations is a bit higher. So maybe the management will go a little bit faster because they don't have the trade unions, they don't have all these, people that have an opinion and that need to be heard. And I think in government organizations, that's more the setting. So what I noticed when I do change in government organizations is that a lot of people say, okay, been here before, we'll see. So sort of this, I'll go back, relax a little bit, cross my arms, and sort of say, well, the last time they said it took 4 years.
Julia, usually the government organization change is more slower, but the private one is more faster because there is a pressure group in the private
I think yes.
organization. Yeah. Because
yeah.
government
but
organization
not every government organization, right? Because it also depends again on what the history is, but maybe I think yes.
Yeah. Also, it's vary from country to country.
Yeah. Ms. Tamanna, you raised your hand. You wanted to ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. My question is from the part of on communication and human factors. Ms. Julia, could you please tell me what role does psychological safety plan in effective change management, and uh, how it how can it be cultivated during periods of uncertainty?
Can you repeat what is the role of psychology? Sorry, I
What
couldn't understand.
role does psychological safety plan in effective change management, and how can it be cultivated during periods of uncertainty?
Do the other people understand the first part? Because
I think
cannot
she asked about the role of psychology or psychological state of the people, psychological
I
challenges.
see. Yeah. I think she's
Yes,
asking about the impact of on the people about the change. What
yes,
the
that's
impact the employee will have when the change is being implemented.
That's a very interesting question. Thank you for asking, because that is one of the focus areas of those academics. Now, what is the influence of personality? What's the influence of process versus personality? You know, and this I studied the last few years a lot about change readiness, and that is really about this attitude of people to feel okay. So it's really this attitude of psychological state for what is coming. And at the same time, we also controlled for openness to change. So, you know, this trait of personality, you know, are you, if you go on a holiday, do you eat weird stuff, or do you really like to stick to your hamburger, you know, as a Western person? So to what extent do they collide? And there's a relation to that. And there is. And I also think that education is part of that as well. You know, what are your opportunities outside? How okay are you personality wise with not knowing? Some people hate not knowing. Some people are fine with not knowing. So because you asked about this cultivation and what you need to do, I think that we need to help managers to understand that people need different things when going through a change. So one person might need a lot of talks and, you know, are you okay? And how can I help you relieve stress? Well, somebody else, you know, you're like, oh, no, well, here, you please come back to me when you know. And in the meantime, I'm okay. So this is also, again, this argument that one size does not fit all. And psychology is a very big state of it, because this uncertainty, this is also why people think a lot that change, people don't like change and are resistant in the core of their I'm not sure whether that is true, whether I believe that, because I think that people are okay with change because things can also change for the better, right? But it is what they need in the meantime to get to that state. So some need reassurance, and some need a vision as to what could be in there for them in the future. And I think that's often determined by their personality, and that creates this attitude, but also with what they experienced in life, history-wise, or what their situation is at home. Are you the sole caretaker of a whole family with not a lot of diplomas? Then of course you're going to be more anxious if something's going to change, right?
Thank you
So
again. Yeah, we are almost at the end of our 1 hour session, but quickly I want to take this opportunity to ask another question. I mean, often we hear about this top management buy-in in change management, and that's one of the most important thing in executing change management. Now, what's about this bottom-up approach, and sometimes which we call change readiness of the people? And one word I found in your presentation, which which I picked up, deep democracy. I mean, what are the challenges of imbibing this deep democracy across the organization, vertically and horizontally? How to do that?
So deep democracy is how do you say it? One of the many things like that you can do. So agile and lean is an approach, and deep democracy is also an approach. And the idea behind deep democracy is that, you know, you always have people that, you know, if we make a decision, sort of the majority counts, like who's all in favor? Aye, okay, 2 people not. Okay, just go with it. That's sort of the normal way of making decisions, right? And deep democracy says no. If you want to have a decision made that sort of is owned by everybody or supported by everybody, you need to ask those 2 people why they cannot raise their hand. So what is it that withheld them, or that they see maybe that could be a risk of this decision? because they say that if you approach people this way, you will get a better decision. That's what they say. So if you then talk bottom up, top down, you know, in the pure sex, so in the most black and white version, bottom up is like people want something and they start this grassroots movement, sort of, you know, like you see in society often. And then top down is, well, the government or the CEO wants something and they push it down. That's the black and white way. But what would be most beautiful is that, you know, if we take a business at least, is that the business, the management team sees that they need to, I don't know, cut costs, you know, otherwise the company won't survive. So they set this target, they see this imminent risk, but maybe then stop, you know, please company, please my employees, we have this common threat. Let's talk together about the opportunities that you see that can help us as a company. Like what chances do you see? What possibilities or what things that we don't see? And then you get this bottom up. And so their top down is sort of this goal setting, but bottom up is the way to go about getting towards what we're going to do. And then you have this very beautiful combination. I think that could be very effective. But I also can imagine that it's cultural dependent if people would speak up or not, or, you know, I don't know. So I think we still have a lot to learn there.
No, I think you beautifully summed up that about the beautiful combination of this top down and bottom up, and about imbibing this deep democracy across the organization. Now, at the last moment, I want to again request Professor Nurulab sir, as the main of change management, you want to add any last line about it? Then we will close.
So, as you people have already talked a lot, I think many experts say that change management is all about the people management. So as people are at the center of all the change efforts that we take, so we have learned a lot from our international expert, Dr. Julia, then our pioneer in change management in Bangladesh, Dr. Nazmul. And once again, we are thankful to our moderator, Dr. Khaled, for so nicely conducting the session. And I would like to say that this is just the beginning for exploring the world of change management in Bangladeshi context and blending the East and West with respect to change management. And in future, we may have some other sessions on change management in the coming days. So I thank you all once again for joining. Dr. Julia, we are so grateful to you for spending your valuable time, ignoring your many personal and professional schedules.
You're welcome.
All the participants.
So at the conclusion, I wanted to just thank our honorable keynote speakers, Dr. Julia Muneemalin and Dr. Nazmul as discussant, and those who asked questions, Professor Irfan and Professor Tamanna, both from the Department of Management and Human Resource Management of Chittagong Independent University, and last but not the least, Professor Nurulab sir, Vice Chancellor of Chittagong Independent University, and all the men and women behind happening all this webinar for weeks of preparation. And just the best thing, I wanted to hope that this is just the beginning, and we want to continue this kind of conversation between Europe and Bangladesh, East and West, and we want to see that beautiful combination of top-down and bottom-up approach of change management. With that concluding note, I wanted to just close this. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are.
See you. Thank you.